Hello students! Today we are going to work with one of the most famous and strangest poems in the English language, that is Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It was written in 1797 but published 2 decades later. Coleridge said that he was under the influence of opium and he was reading a book on mythological travels when he fell asleep. He had a dream vision. Actually, the subtitle of the poem is A Vision in a Dream. And when he woke up, he started to write this poem that he had composed while dreaming. He said he had composed about 300 lines, but the actual poem has only 54 because he said he was interrupted by a man from the village of Porlock, and when he came back, all the inspiration had gone, and that's why he said he left the poem unfinished. Actually, nowadays, the phrase person from Porlock is a literary allusion that refers to an unwanted intruder who interrupts creative work or inspiration. I think maybe the poem is unfinished deliberately in order to create all this mysticism and legend around it. Maybe he used the topic of the drugs or he exaggerated it on purpose in order to fascinate the audience and to urge people into reading the poem. We don't really know. So, the allusion, person from Porlock, is one of the contributions of the poem to literature. But more importantly, Coleridge, together with his friend William Wordsworth, inspired what later became the Transcendentalist movement in America. And they are, of course, the fathers of the romantic movement in England. Yes? Okay, and Kubla Khan, the poem we are going to work with today, represents the Romanticism in its purest form. Why? There's an overflow of feelings, it depicts a wild nature, and celebrates the power of imagination to create new worlds, new exotic worlds, okay? But this work, and this is really interesting, or at least it's interesting for me, it also had a great impact on society. The figure of the poet as depicted in the poem, with his flashing eyes and floating hair, has inspired the current rock and roll singer figure. Yes, some artists, in fact, have taken expressions from the poem and used them in films and songs. The milk of paradise, which is a phrase taken from the poem, is, some artists use this phrase as a metaphor for drugs, yes, because of the color, of course. And it's actually, well, the color and the paradise, right? It's actually the title of Junie Russ's song, Milk of Paradise. Let's listen to it. Okay. And also the band Rush, who paraphrases almost the whole poem in their song Xanadu. Let's listen to it now. To see the sacred river out, to walk the gates of ice, to break my fast on honeydew, and drink the milk of paradise. Okay, so we can't say it hasn't inspired or hasn't had a great impact on society, right? Well, but enough of me talking. Let's get to work now. Okay. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dumb decree, whereof the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests ancient as the hills, unfolding sunny sports of greenery. This is the poem's first stanza. Could you identify the rhyme and the musicality of the poem? Well, this is in part given by the meter, which is the topic we will discuss today. As I've said before, I'll introduce the topic of meter using this poem as a guide. We will see only two different types of metrical foot, iambic and trochee, and three types of meter, trimeter, tetrameter, and pentameter. Why? Because they are used in the poem, okay? But what is meter? It's the basic rhythmic structure of a verse. The smallest elements of meter are syllables, which can be stressed or unstressed. According to the sequence, according to the pattern of these syllables, we can distinguish various metrical feet, whose number indicates the name of the meter. To analyze it, first we should divide the line into syllables and identify the stressed syllables and the unstressed syllables. According to the sequence we find, according to the pattern we find, the line is divided into feet. Then we count the number of those feet and, to have the name of the meter, yes? Today was the only two of the most important feet, as I said before. Iambic foot, which is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. They are marked this way. And a trochee foot, a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. We will see some examples now. According to the number of feet, we can name the meter. Monometer, if it only has 1 foot. Dimeter, 2 feet. Trimeter, 3 feet. Tetrameter, 4 feet. And pentameter, 4 feet. This is just, and so on, yes, because maybe there's a line with 6 feet. Yes, it is possible, or 8 or whatever. This is just, or these are just examples, yes. It doesn't mean that there will always be 10 syllables in a pentameter, because it depends actually on the type of foot, yes. If the foot is anapestic, which is another type of foot that we won't see today, but just to give you an example, if the foot is anapestic, there are 3 syllables in that foot. So, a pentameter, an anapestic pentameter, would have 15 syllables instead of 10 instead of the 10 syllables that has an iambic pentameter, right? I don't know if that's clear. Okay, now let's see some examples. Let's analyze this, seeing an example, okay? So, I've divided the lines, this is part of the first stanza. I've divided the lines into syllables and I've identified the stress in bold, yes? As you can see, there is a pattern that is repeated. An unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. There you see it. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, whereof the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man. Okay? Well, now those are iambic feet. Yes, unstressed followed by stressed. Now let's divide those feet. There you got it. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we got 4 feet, the meter is, of course, tetrameter. Yes? So the first 4 lines of the poem are iambic tetrameter. Then in line 5, the poem changes. There are only 3 feet. So it is a trimeter, of course. Yes? There are only 6 syllables, but the important is the number of the feet. Yes, we've got 3, so it is trimeter. And in line 10, there are 10 syllables. 5 iambic feet in this case. The name of the meter is, of course, pentameter. Yes, because there are 5 feet. Okay, so what happens? What's the point of having different types of meter? In the poem's first stanza, the speaker uses 3 different types of meter. Tetrameter, which is the meter that predominates throughout the poem, trimeter, and pentameter. This contributes to the meaning of the poem. How is that so? Because the unpredictable shifting lengths feels out of control, yes? As if something were rushing forward and then slowing down. Just like the river that is being described in that first stanza. That's why we say that, or I say that meter contributes to the meaning of the poem, yes? Now let's move to line 32. This is complicated because some experts suggest that there are different ways of analyzing it. Some say it could be a catalectic trochee tetrameter. Catalectic means that the last syllable of the last foot is dropped. And others say that it is acephalous iambic tetrameter. What does it mean? Acephalous means that the first foot has lost its first syllable. As most of the poem is written in iambic meter, as I've said before, it makes sense that this line should be analyzed as acephalous iambic tetrameter to avoid conflict with the rest of the poem, yes? But just for the sake of seeing an example of a trochaic feet, we are going to analyze it as a trochaic tetrameter, yes? Floated midway on the waves. It is trochaic because each foot is made up of a stressed syllable, floated midway on the waves. That's it. And an unstressed syllable. Okay? And it is tetrameter because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 feet. Yes? Okay. Now, it is your turn to put into practice what I've just said and to analyze the meter of a poem. You'll do with Daffodils, which is a famous poem of the other father of Romanticism, William Wordsworth. Here you've got the poem. Enjoy. Bye.